everybody. It's Story Long from Oak Grove United Methodist Church in Oak Grove, Oregon. So happy to have you here today for our third lesson in the Beatitudes. Not our third lesson overall. You'll find more videos because we are doing the every other week, focusing on a part of the Beatitudes. And then every other week outside of that is something that's supplementary to that, a learning activity, an adventure, something fun for you to be able to do at home. As always, we hope you received our envelopes with the activities and coloring sheets. If you did not and you would like to, have your parents go to one of the links that we provide below the video and contact us at any of those places, and we will include you to the mailing list. It is an envelope that will be personally sent to you, and it has our, like I said, our coloring sheets, reflection sheets, activity sheets that you can do on Sundays with us, or you can do it anytime during the week that works for you. So today we are going to be focusing on a beatitude, Matthew 5:4. So we're still in Jesus's big teachings. Remember, he's telling people this is what the kingdom that Jesus is in charge of looks like. And remember, it's very different than what the people then would have been used to. He's turning a lot of things upside down. He said last time we talked, blessed are the poor in spirit. So blessed are those whose circumstances aren't always the best. And at that time, that would have been people that weren't at the top, that didn't have money or land or respect, or maybe they didn't have medicine to take care of their kids or their parents, or they didn't have enough food on the table. And Jesus said, those people that in this world are often not considered lucky, in my kingdom, the poor in spirit are blessed. And now in Matthew 5:4, Jesus is going to continue his teaching and continue to turn things upside down by talking about blessed are those who mourn. So what does that mean? So first, our welcome question for you to either think about on your own, to write down maybe, to talk about with your parents or siblings or friends or whoever's watching with you. But what is something that makes you laugh? What is something that makes you cry? So as you do whatever you're going to do with that question, you can pause and then come back. But if you're just going to keep it in the front of your mind while we do our reflection, then you're welcome to do that as well. Okay. So today, we're going to join a huge crowd of people following Jesus like we did last week. Remember, he sees their hurts, he sees their pains, and he cares for them in so many different ways. He leads them to a mountain. And we climbed that mountain. Remember, there were so many ways we could do that. We can hike that mountain. We can climb up a rope. We can take a ramp if we're in a wheelchair, if we need someone to push us or we're on crutches. There's a lot of ways we can get up that mountain. I would just want to walk. I don't have good grip. But you can do it any way you want. March, climb, hike, whatever sounds best. And we climb that mountain to be with Jesus. Now, what do you think we would see up on that mountain? What would we notice? What do you think would that mountain have looked like thousands of years ago if Jesus was taking crowds and crowds of people up to teach them on that mountain? What might you see? What might some of the people be doing? What would people your size be doing and your age be doing up there? Take some time to imagine that, to make it come alive. You know, in Jesus' time, people believed mountains were holy and special places to be with God. There were lots of examples of that in the Bible. That's where Moses got the 10 Commandments. That's where Jesus later is going to show himself to his friends for the first time as he really is. All of those happen on a mountain. And Jesus talks about God's kingdom on this mountain. Remember, you can think of a kingdom as the way the world works, is set up. Remember, we talked about how your kingdom in your school will have certain rules. That kingdom will have certain people that are in charge. Your kingdom at home will have certain rules for the way things work, certain rules about who does chores, who does the dishes, who takes the dog for a walk. All those are a part of that kingdom. And in God's kingdom, there's abundance. Remember what that means? Abundance, it means more than enough, more than you can imagine, more than enough to go around of food, money, love, resources, houses, toys, all of that. There is more and enough for God's kingdom for everyone to live and to thrive. Now, Matthew 5:4 says, "Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted." There were people in Jesus' time, just like today, who were taught crying was shameful. It was something to be embarrassed of. It meant you were a baby. It meant you were weak. It meant you were too vulnerable. Many of the rich and powerful people spent their time trying not to cry because they were in charge, and they needed to make sure no one thought they weren't in charge, that no one thought that they weren't powerful or strong. So they focused on gathering all their money and all their control so that they didn't have to feel vulnerable. They built up big armor around them, sometimes literal armor, either on them or their soldiers, whatever it was, to keep them safe. In this promise, Jesus speaks to those who are mourning or crying. And Jesus says they are blessed. Why do you think he did this? Why do you think that would be important for Jesus to say, "Blessed are those who mourn"? What are some reasons you think people might have had to mourn, to cry, to be sad? Think about that. You can discuss that if you want. You can write it down as we continue our reflection. You can pause, but why would someone have to cry? What are some of the reasons people might be mourning? Because I bet everyone here has cried before. I know I have. Why do you think people cry? I know I cry for a lot of reasons. I cry when I read a sad book or I watch a sad movie. I cry sometimes when I'm really, really tired and overwhelmed. I cry when I'm angry and frustrated and I can't tell someone why, and then it just comes out in tears. I cry when I'm lonely sometimes. Crying shows we're alive, we're awake, we're aware. Sometimes it shows that we're brave. It shows we are willing to feel pain. Sometimes our pain, sometimes someone else's. You're not trying to block the pain around you or keep it at a distance. Tears and crying are important. And right now, there's a lot of reasons to cry. Either because of what's happening in our own life, because we're frustrated that we can't go to school, that we can't hug our grandparents. We see people that are experiencing racism and calling out for justice, and all of that can make us sad, and all of that can make us feel some pain. And tears and crying are important, especially when what makes us cry is painful and hard to hold. It's also a beautiful way we connect with God. Did you know that God cries too? And that Jesus cried during his time on earth? God cries for everyone. God's heart is wide and big and holds all the pain in the world of everyone hurting throughout the whole world. And when we cry, it's a way of sharing our heart with God. Jesus promises here that God will comfort us when we cry. And Jesus promised that God would bring comfort and make things right for all the people listening who couldn't provide for their own needs, no matter how hard they tried. We're told they didn't belong because of who they were or what they've done, and struggled because the way the world is set up to harm them and hurt them. And all of that caused them to grieve and cry. And God said here, "I am with you. You are blessed. You are not alone." One way God brings comfort is through you. When you offer your hand out or a loving word, especially to someone who's sad, you are God's comfort to that person. Crying together and being vulnerable always helps us belong with each other. And it brings us closer to God. So before we transition to our next activity, I would like to bless you. A blessing is something you receive. So open your hands like this if you are ready to receive a gift. I will speak a blessing. If you receive it, you can take it and put it in your heart. May God bless you when you laugh and when you cry. God understands all of your feelings. Now, if you received our envelope, you did get a coloring sheet. You may have used that during the reflection. That's okay. You might have already done it. But that coloring sheet also includes some questions. So if you didn't receive our envelope because we don't have you on our mailing list yet, here are some of them for you to think about. You can write them down now. You can talk about them. You can write about them in a journal. But think about a time you cried. What happened? How did you feel after you cried? What happened to your body, to your eyes, to your mind, to your heart after you were done crying? Was anyone with you when you cried? Did you want someone with you when you cried, or do you like to be alone? So that's the first question you can think about, talk about, reflect on. The second one, how can you be a comfort to someone this week? What can you do that brings God's comfort to another person? So our activity is going to help you do that. That question of how do you comfort someone when they're sad, especially right now, one of the best ways we can do that is to send cards or messages. Now, lots of times we do emails now, we text, we call, we FaceTime, and that's awesome that we can do that. But there's something special about receiving a card in the mail, especially right now when people, maybe you haven't been able to see someone face to face in a long time because they're vulnerable and they can't be around too many people. Or maybe it's someone who lives on the other side of the country and a traveling plan got interrupted. So now you can't go see them, and sending a card might be exactly what they need. Now, if you got your activity sheet, that comes with a card for you to use. But really, you can do any kind of card you want. So even if you didn't get an activity sheet, you can get a piece of paper, draw a picture on it, write something on it. Now, if you receive the activity, the front says, when you are feeling sad, remember. So you can write that on your card if you want. If you want to write on the front, when you are feeling sad, remember. And on the inside, write your own words of comfort and enjoyment. Like, when you are sad, remember that God hears your prayers. Or when you are sad, remember everyone feels sad sometimes. When you are sad, remember that I love you. Remember that I'm thinking about you. You can write that or any version of that you want. You can also just write that you're thinking about them and draw a picture, whatever fits your artistic ability and what you want to do. And then have your parent help you pick someone to send that to, mail that to, drop that off at their house, on their front doorstep, whatever it might be. And that is a great way for you to be God's comfort to someone this week. So before we say goodbye, we're going to pray. You can get into any position that's comfortable for you. You can close your eyes and fold your hands. You can look up. You can keep your eyes open. You can repeat the prayer after me, or you can just listen, whatever makes you feel most comfortable. Okay. Comforting God, thank you for our tears and how they teach us, how they free us and connect us to you. Thank you for holding the pain that makes us cry and for crying with us. Please use us to be a comfort to someone else this week. Amen. Thank you for joining us. I hope everyone has a great week, and we'll see you next time. Bye.